On this week's episode of My Three Keys of Success, I have the pleasure of interviewing a man who started with a single office, providing great chiropractic care, and is in the midst of his goal of creating 1,000 chiropractic offices all across the United States. Join me for this episode as we interview Dr. Corey Malnicof. Hello and welcome to Secrets of My Success, part of For the Love of Chiropractic podcast series. On each episode, I'll be interviewing one highly successful doctor or business person, asking them what are their 3 keys of success or secrets they've used to make themselves so highly successful. So let's get started with today's show. On today's call, I have the pleasure of interviewing a doctor by the name of Corey Malnicof. He's a very special chiropractor who I've known for years and years, who has a special mission, and he's agreed to talk with us on today's show. Corey, are you there?
Yes, sir.
It is great to have you, and thank you for making the time to talk with us today.
Time for you, buddy.
Awesome. So Corey, I got to ask you, as we get started, give me a little bit of background. How long have you been in practice, and tell me how you got started in chiropractic?
Sure. Well, next month is my 20-year anniversary. So
congratulations.
Yes, sir. But chiropractic, man, I mean, I grew up my whole life with chiropractic. I was the 4-year-old kid with asthma. Parents took me to the local quack, and my medical doctors told me I spontaneously outgrew my asthma after 2 weeks of chiropractic.
Well, amazing how those coincidences are.
Yes, sir. And I just kind of stuck with it. I got to play high school sports, college sports, and my chiros always kept me on the field. So when it came time to pick a profession, it just kind of made sense.
Awesome. And then what did you do when you graduated school? Did you associate or opened up?
No, I had way too big of a head. So, had a big ego, tried to open a practice, did everything completely wrong. Thought I'd put the shingle up and, the sea would part and people would come and got to learn the hard way that there's a lot more to this game than just open up and get rolling. But lucky for me, man, I opened up, didn't do it right, and then learned everything correct, and then got everything up and kicking and running, and come quite a ways since then.
So before we talk about where you are now and what you're creating, tell me a little bit about that transition from recognizing like this ain't working to how'd you figure it out?
Yeah, well, the funny thing, Doc, like I know, we had some great mentors, and it's really easy to point the finger, right? So like I was like, oh, the neighborhood, the community, the this, the that, and I won't go through a long story. I'll just say there was definitely a moment where all of a sudden I was like, oh damn, it's me. It's me. Wow, I'm failing, and I'm not attracting any money, and I'm attracting bills, and I'm attracting negativity, and wow, everything I've ever learned, affirmations, visualizations, goal setting, action steps, everything. It's like, wow, I should probably look in the mirror, shut up, and get rolling. And so, for me, it was going back to the basics and creating me and getting with all the people that were doing things correct and saying, hey, if you're going to do it, I'm going to listen. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to do what you say.
Fabulous, man. I love that message. And I mean, all of us have done that journey in some way, shape, or form. And it's always wonderful to hear someone who's become such a huge success, talk about where they started and just share your heart of, I didn't know what to do, and I was wrong, and I was doing it wrong. You got mentors, you got coaches. That's phenomenal. So tell me what you're doing now. What are you building?
Well, interesting. So I've got 25 offices right now. I started with one, had a couple, jumped to a few more. And, as I've been doing this, I love working with the docs. I love seeing growth. I love seeing the clinics grow. I love seeing the number of patients we impact grow. And, as we get more and more involved, I mean, you've been involved at a high level there in your state, and you get to see this dichotomy of chiropractic, how one part's moving towards this musculoskeletal prescribed drugs, and one side's trying to stick with our principles and who we are and what we do. And my thought's just been build enough offices that our voice is loud enough to kind of make an impact on that. So that's kind of what I'm up to.
I love that. So we say build enough offices. How many offices are you thinking?
So I'm going to say it's gray. So originally, I really wanted to grow this thing. I was thinking literally in the big numbers, getting up towards like 1,000 clinics. Now that I'm at 25, we're about to reorganize. And so that's a question that's TBD.
Okay, well that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So with your 25 clinics, and they're all under the same name, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So what makes your offices, what makes your brand unique?
Yeah, 100%. It's just the culture we've created. And, I take pride in that. I'm not even 100% sure how it continues to grow the way it does. I mean, but our culture that we have with our team, that everyone's in it together, everyone's helping each other grow personally and professionally. Everyone's, on chats on their phone. Everyone's on WhatsApp groups. Everyone's on Facebook pages. Everyone's talking on the phone. Everyone's getting together. Everyone is just so linked up. We started our clinics. I'm located in Northern Virginia. We've got like 14 clinics out here, but I've got 6 clinics in Texas. And it's insane to me how Texas is an exact mimic of the culture we created here in Northern Virginia. And it really is what separates us.
It shows you. It flows from the top down. I mean, I've known you for a bunch of years. You are a huge powerhouse, incredibly magnetic, and it doesn't surprise me that that's the culture that drafts behind you like a race car.
Well, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
All right. So let's dig into to really the meat of the question. So
Yeah.
What would you say your keys of success are? What are your 3 big keys?
Yeah, so I was looking through these. I wrote 3 down, and I'll mention them, and happy to chat about them. But one of them is certainty, which part of the fun for me is 25 practices. 40, 50 doctors, everybody running the same systems and procedures, but different results.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much comes from that. And I can talk about that in a second. And then the other ones I would say is the team, and then knowing your stats is huge. Knowing your stats, as I went from one practice to 5 to 10 to 20 and etc. I hate to say stats driven, but for me, the stats are just become so amazing because if you know your stats, it literally just points you exactly where you have to go. There's just, there's no human way possible that everything you do works well every month. It's like sometimes all of a sudden you start seeing things like new patients slide, or you start seeing conversions slide, or you start seeing, you might have a month where patients start to leave a little and your PVA goes down, or there's just so many stats that sometimes it's hard when you're looking at your practice to know how to grow it unless you know your stats. And your stats just point you like exactly where you need to go. And then it's like, man, there's only 2 or 3 things you need to work on. That's it.
So I'll tell you what, you've given those 3, and I love all of them. Let's talk about those in reverse order because we're already talking about stats. Yeah. So would you say that the doctor follows the statistics, or the statistics follow the doctor?
Oh, yeah. No, 100 million %, right? The stats follow the doctor. It's the doctor that causes everything to happen. That's why I love stats, because if I look at a stat and I see something has fallen, it literally is that mirror. It's that there's something in you that happened in this last month or quarter or 6 months that's leading to that stat being there. But man, it is like your blinking red light of hey, this work on this, work on this, man. Like, you don't have any new patients. Why? Do you not like seeing them? Do you not have a good exam? Are you not excited when you have a new patient there? Are you not doing anything for new patients? Do you feel overwhelmed? Are you not doing your paperwork? Like, the second that blinking light, you look at yourself and you say, what are 10 things about me that is keeping me from having new patients? And it's a total reflection. That's why I love it.
So with 40 or 50 docs and the 25 offices, so how often do you look at the stats, or how often do you have the doctors look at their stats? Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's kind of staggered, depends on the clinics, but I would say for a general rule of thumb, I'm looking at them weekly. The docs are looking at them like every other week. Once a month, we're doing more of a dive, and once a quarter, we're taking a deep dive.
Fantastic. And something that I know both you and I learned a long, long time ago is you can look at January, You can look at February, but in a growth mode, you want to look at this January compared to last January, and February compared to last February, because it's not fair to compare January to August, for example.
No, 100%. I mean, there's so many factors, but
absolutely, and week by week for docs, absolutely makes sense. I agree with you completely. So now tell me more about the team. Tell me about the second piece.
Yeah, so it's really, really probably one of the most difficult things across the board for chiros in general is to just make sure you've got the right team in place and the right people in the right places. And it's really, really hard to let people go when it's not correct. The saying we all go by is hire slow and fire fast, but it doesn't really follow it. But yeah, I mean, the team is just, even in those statistics, man, when I break it down and I'm looking, I mean, when I'm looking at conversion, is it because my staff is scared of money? Is it because my staff, wants to explain everything so in depth that they're just kind of going over the patient's head? So there's so many things when I look at my team. I mean, first and foremost, it's just so hard to have a team who's not in growth mode. So we have to attract people into our clinics that always want to grow. Like the second that you realize you've attracted someone that wants to punch in at 9 and punch out at 5, and that this is their, quote unquote job, it just doesn't fit. So, when if I told you for us, number one thing for us is culture. And so when you identify who you are as a clinic, and your team is either like an extension of you amplifying it, or they're an extension of you completely dampening and destroying it on every level. So it's a tough one, and you gotta have stuff in place to monitor them and to train them and to stay with them, and just so important. I mean, it is as important as it is for you to grow as a person. You've got to have the right people there that are just trying to accomplish what you want to get done in your practice.
So for docs who are trying to build that team, hire, train the team, and get them to buy into the mission and the vision. How do you do that with your team and with your docs and with your offices?
Yeah, as far as the staff goes, I mean, it always starts, whenever we're having trouble hiring. I'm sure you've probably seen this, but whenever you're having trouble hiring, it's like I have to go to that clinic and be like, hey, why do you want to hire this person? Who are you looking for? What would you be excited about them coming? And the fun part is like when I talk to docs and I can get them to list the characteristics of who they're looking like. I mean, I like down to the last dotted I, and I can list those characteristics on an ad. Like I literally take that and put it on the ad. I take our mission statement, I put it on the ad, and then I also put what they have to do. So it's like from the beginning you attract the right person, but it's like, so then that's the start. And so then we have reviews set up to go in and meet with them and make sure they're happy and having fun, see what they're learning, see what they want to learn, and then also test them on what they're doing. We have morning meetings every day where we're going through this checklist to make sure they're involved with everything going on. Just stole that from the Ritz. But then we end it with, affirmations, visualizations, recognition, and hitting our goals so that they're learning that personal professional development every day. We have Monday meetings with all 25 clinics where we're always working on, either self-help stuff or on becoming better at our job. We have once a month meetings that are, 3 hours long. Again, we focus half on, affirmations, visualization, stuff like that, half on being good at what we do. And so we are always involving our team in who we are and what we do and where we're going. Just super important. But you've got to have, for anybody listening that is wondering, well, that sounds like a lot. It's like, so just start with one, right? Let's start with your ad. Does your ad describe that person? And then like step 2, do you have a morning check-in that has everything that shows them who you are and where you're going? And then do you have any training in place? And if you have nothing, just start with something. But you got to have those things in place for your team.
That's awesome. I love all of that. And it's so incredibly very true, especially when you talk about the ad thing. I know personally, and I had talked about this on a previous episode of the podcast, years ago, I was looking to hire an associate to come into my practice, and I was attracting interviewee after interviewee who was just wrong, not the right fit for our office. And a coach of mine said, stop, write down exactly who the person is. And I said, well, I'm looking for a doc. He said, stop. He or she.
Yep.
And went down, and with the energy and what we were looking for in the office and the way the practice was, I was looking for a female doctor, and she should be, should be interested in these things and be passionate about that and be from this section of the state even, or wanted to live in this section of the state. It had it written out in precise detail. And the funny thing was, wrote an ad and threw it in my desk drawer. And less than a month later, she called me and said, I want to work with your office. Yeah. And when we sat down and met, it's like, holy crap. Yeah. So what you're saying, call it visualization, call it the law of attraction. Yeah. It absolutely works. When you focus in, and I know you know this, when you focus in on what you want exactly, precisely, you don't leave gray zone, you get it.
Yeah. No, that's crazy.
So amazing. Which actually now we're backing into what you said was the third key. Talk to me about certainty.
Yeah. So this is fun. This is fun because I have the advantage of, 25 different clinics running the exact same, systems and procedures with the availability of the same marketing. And to be able to see doctors with so many varying statistics. There's been times in the past where I've had a doctor at a certain clinic and they haven't done very well. And it's the demographics, and it's people can't afford it, and it's like, this, and this, and this, and then they didn't work out, and I brought somebody else in, and I'm not gonna name the practice, but I can tell you it's so funny because my number one producing practice is that practice, and it's crazy,
right? Again,
crazy.
The practice follows the doctor.
Oh my Lord, yeah. So it's. Certainty is just huge. It's, when I talk to my doctors, I'm sure, just like you, when we used to do, day one and day two, day one examination, figure out what's going on with the patient. And then day two, tell them this is what I found, this is what it costs, this is what's going to take, let's go. There was never any hesitation. There wasn't really a conversion percentage because everyone converted. Like, hey, I figured out what's wrong, let's fix it. And it comes from that certainty of who you are and being able to portray that to someone who's like looking up at you and saying, yeah, you're my doctor. I get you. I want that. I'm in. And so, and it's not something you just get overnight. It's something you're always working on. So, and I'm with my doctors. You've got to figure out, what doubts pop in your mind. When do they pop in your mind? Mm-hmm. What fears pop in your mind? When do you pop in your mind? And when we can figure those out, and then you start dealing with things like anchors, right? Like whether it's tapping your chest or squeezing your fist or touching your ring, and instantly you have different words, different affirmations, different thoughts, different programming. It changes everything. It's just you've got to, but you have to work on it, right? So when I work with doctors, I'm interviewing people and they're like, what are you looking for in a doctor? My number one thing is I'm looking for someone that turns the finger, points at them, doesn't point out, because it's always going to be us. Mm-hmm. And if you admit that, then what are you going to do? Right. So, our doctors, it's, hey, I love CEs. And I know Virginia wants us doing 30 CE credits, at a seminar, and 30 CE credits in the clinic. I don't care. I want you to do 60. I know, you're good at your technique, but when's the last time you went to a technique seminar and got better at it? I told my son the other day, he's a really good soccer player, great foot skills. And so I didn't know how to tell him to work on it. Mm-hmm. So I said to him, your foot skills are so good. Man, I wonder what it would look like if they were even better. And you watch his eyes get big, and the kid goes out there, and all of a sudden he's just rolling. It's just the same with our docs. It's the same with our staff. It's just you have to sharpen that saw all the time. And I know it becomes almost monotonous at times, but man, it's everything. The discipline and the consistency it takes to just keep working on yourself and keep building and building. That's how someone goes from 100 a week to 200 a week, 200 a week to 400 a week. It's not going to be the next amazing piece of marketing, quote unquote, or it's not going to be something that's going to cause a spark. It's just us. It's just what happens, and you just got to work on it.
Yeah, you becoming a bigger, better version of you, one step at a time.
You have to be. Like, I could never imagine being the guy in my shoes, managing 25 clinics. I mean, heck, man, I could barely be the guy in the shoes managing the first clinic.
Mm-hmm.
But I've worked on myself. I've recreated myself over the last 20 years. I don't think I'm much like I was when I graduated.
All right. I've known you over a bunch of years, and you are truly a master practitioner and master business owner. You are a true mentor to so many docs. I want to switch gears because time is running short. I've got 2 questions to ask you. I apologize, 3. Question number 1. In today's world, is it possible for a kid coming right out of school or a doctor who is not currently successful, is it possible to create a big successful practice in today's world from scratch?
Oh, of course.
All right. I knew you'd say that, but I had to ask the question and get it on record. All right.
Of course.
All right. Duh. All right. So here's my second question. Define business success for me in your words.
I think business success probably is if you know where you are and you know where you're going and you know what the difference is. I mean, that's everything, right? That's everything. If you're trying to make a certain profit, then where are you at now and where are you trying to get and what are you doing to get there? If you're at a certain number of visits and you want to get somewhere, where are you at? Where are you going? What are you doing to get that? If you know where you're at, you know what your next action steps are, and you know where you're trying to get, then congrats to you.
That's awesome. I knew you'd say something like that. That's beautiful. My final question, define personal success.
Oh, my Lord. The ever-reaching mecca of the mountain that we all strive to get and just stare at our whole lives. And personal success is a tough one. It's got to be defined by somebody. For me, it's always, what am I doing to be the dad, to be the husband? What am I doing to take care of my health? What am I doing to help my staff become better? And it's funny. It's kind of in that order. And then lastly is, what am I doing to create a successful business? But I think because that's my order, that's what happens.
And having known you, and obviously I see you on social media, that is what your life looks like. I know you're an amazing dad. I know your wife absolutely thinks the world of you because you're an amazing husband, and your practices and your business speaks for itself. Dr. Corey Malnicof, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this interview with us, and I know it's going to be a huge help to all the doctors who are listening.
Well, Doc, man, just a quick shout to you, man. It's amazing that you're doing this because it's so needed. Not enough people are doing it, and you're a rock star, and the stuff you're sharing when I was listening to it is just so spot on.
All right, and that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.